Hey, my name is Samar. I also go by Sam or First Time Panner. Any of those you want to call me, you can. This will be an update for my No Pan Left Behind series. Just in case you haven't seen this before, I'll link the series playlist in the description box. But this is just a project where I'm trying to use every single pan of eyeshadow in all of my palettes in the year 2024. And I'm pacing myself by grouping them up by month. So by calendar month, I pick 4 or 5 palettes that I want to work on, and hopefully I hit my goal where I'll be able to use every pan at least once throughout the year. So far I've been successful, which means I was able to hit my goal again in June. This is my last use today on my eyes, and it was kind of like the last 3 colors I needed to use in all of my palettes, but I like the way it turned out, even though it was just the leftovers. But I'll get started. So first I'll do a recap on the items that I was using in June, and then I'll talk about what I'm bringing in for July. It's been a while since, or at least it feels like it's been a while since I started working on these palettes, because June was very busy for me. But I think I started with my Kaleidos Lunar Lavender palette. It's a really beautiful 6-pan palette, so it only took me 2 uses to hit my goal on this palette, and this is what it looks like. The first use, and I'll put the pictures on the screen as always, the first use was with the 2 more neutral shades, and then this blue, which even though I liked both of the looks that I did with this palette, that was definitely my favorite of the 2. The next time I used the other 3 shades, and this and my Sashimi City palette are just so easy to use. They blend out really well, and the shimmers and metallics are impactful, but they always come out looking like you spent half an hour doing your eyeshadow and it could have taken you 5 minutes. So that's what I love these Kaleidos palettes for. I've never tried anything else from Kaleidos in general, but I haven't tried their other eyeshadows, only these 2 formulas, which unfortunately are discontinued. But because I love these shadows so much, I would be interested in trying some others, but not for a while. I also had my the Nubian from Juvia's Place. Going into the month, I had only used this. I used it in its entirety, but only like on one occasion, or like in one project when I first got this. So it had been a while since I had used it, and I was thinking, okay, well, these 2 shades are pretty much the exact same, like they just be deepening shades. The only difference is this one is metallic, but I would never use that dark of a shade all over my eye. And then I was thinking, well, this shade is really too light for me to do anything with it. These 2 metallics, this like yellow gold, and then this like very, very warm red, they just weren't shades that I was thinking I would be using too much. So I felt like half of this palette, even though it's good quality, it's not the best quality I've ever used, even though it's good quality, I wasn't looking forward too much to using this palette. However, because the way I do my makeup and my eyeshadow has changed since I first used this palette, I did find ways to make it work. Very recently, like in the past few months, I've realized that I do sometimes, I still usually use mattes, but I found that I do like to use metallics in like my outer corner to deepen things up, because then, you know, your lid shade is kind of like streamlined. It doesn't just stop at like a matte edge. Once you get to the deepening out shade, like you can kind of streamline your eyeshadow a bit more by using a metallic deepening shade. So that's how I use this one. And then I used this shade in like an ombre look, so it was really, really pretty. And then I just mixed these 2 shades together instead of using them individually to create a really pretty orange color that went really well with the other things that I'm panning. So yeah, I really enjoyed using this palette. It's still not my favorite neutral palette in my entire collection, but I've grown much more appreciation for it than I had before. So, and I never regretted having this palette, or else I would have decluttered it. But yeah, I feel like now when I look at this, I don't just think, oh, I don't want to use that, I'll use something else. Like, I feel like I could actually reach into this. And there are some shades that I really love in here too. Like, I love this shade for an inner corner highlight. It's so pretty, and it's like really shifty gold and pink. I did a really pretty one and done look with this shade right here. It's like a hybrid between a metallic and a satin, so I didn't want to use it like as a topper for my look, but as a one and done it was really pretty. And then I used these two shades together the first time I ever did a look with this palette this past month, and that might have been my favorite look that I did with this entire palette because it was really simple but it was really pretty, so I enjoyed using this. I did have a second purple palette in this month, and that was my, I was about to say Juvia's Place. That was my Melt Cosmetics She's in Parties palette, and you've seen this a bunch of times because I do talk about it a lot. So yeah, I feel like with this palette I kind of had the opposite effect that I had with the Nubian palette. Going into this month, I loved this palette so much. It was like probably in my top 10 palettes in my entire collection, and I still love it, and I'm still really glad I have it because I don't even think you can get this anymore. So I don't regret buying it, and I still think it's beautiful and you can do a lot with it, but it's not as impressive as I remember it being, just because I do feel limited with what I can do with all of these deep shades. But like I said with the Nubian, I started using the deeper metallics as like deepening up shades in my outer corner, and that was really beautiful. Yeah, I just feel a little bit limited with how many deep shades there are versus how many medium. Like there's only, for me in my skin tone, there's only one mid-tone matte, which is Last Caress, and this one is way too light for me. I actually ended up mixing it with a different shade. I think it may have been this deep matte Mean Streak. So for me, there's not like, I can only do like one type of look and then kind of just repeat it with the other shades. So even though I really like this, it's just not as impressive as I remember, but I did enjoy using it and I did create really beautiful looks with it. Then we have my Sigma Ambiance, which is one of my favorite palettes in my collection, and sorry, someone's texting me. Probably the most used palette in my entire collection. It's definitely either this or my Sephora Blues Beauty palette. Yeah, I really enjoyed using this. I think because I had a break from the end of last year when this was my Pan That palette to like 5 months later when I started using this, I was able to, like, you know, have a break because I think I was kind of burnt out from this palette in the beginning of the year. But using this again was so nice, and I did use the shade Summer Solstice on the day of the summer solstice, so that was fun. I'm pretty sure I used it with this yellow metallic Sunflower. I did actually for the first time use Midas as an inner corner highlight, so I put something very frosty on my inner corner and then put Midas on top, and that made it like light enough to be an inner corner highlight but not too yellow because I had the frosty base underneath. So that's how I ended up using the shade, and that was probably the shade that I always had the most trouble using, even though I feel like at first it was Sunflower, and then I realized I liked using it kind of like how I'm using this yellow, which is like with colorful looks. Midas was like the most challenging shade for me, and I ended up figuring out how to use it in a way that I really like. And then I did expand some of the pans that I have in this palette, probably not too much because I only used each shade once, but yeah, I liked every single look that I did with this palette. There wasn't a single dud, so those will all be on the screen, and I don't want to talk about it for too long, but I really love this palette. And honestly, like, once I declutter this would probably even be a repurchase for me because I love it so much, and I'm really glad that I have this with me. On to the last palette of the month, which is also what I'm wearing on my eyes. This is the Sydney Grace Mountain Trail palette. I'm a little bit bummed, side note, this has nothing to do with this video. I heard the California Coast palette is being discontinued, and I am a little bit bummed because I kind of like, right before I heard it was being discontinued, I decided that I wanted to purchase it sometime this year, because for the longest time I told myself I wasn't gonna buy the California Coast palette, and then, sorry, the birds are really loud today, and then I was like, I kept seeing people feature it in their videos, and I was like, that is such a beautiful palette, and I live by the beach, so it's kind of like sentimental to me. So basically it's being discontinued and it's too late for me. I haven't checked, I probably could get it before it's completely gone, but I'm not gonna. But anyway, this is the Mountain Trail palette that was released with the California Coast palette, and this is the green and brown one, so of course this is the one that I bought. And the 3 shades that I'm wearing on my eyes today are Dirt Road, this lightest matte, Trailhead, which is the darkest matte, and then the like yellow green shifty metallic, which is Be the Sunshine. So I kind of put the lightest matte all over, and then put the darkest matte, really built it up on top of the base that I laid down, and then blended out the edges with that same light shade, and then put this all over. As you can see, really simple look, pretty quick, but yeah, I really like it. And then the other shades, or not the other shades, the other looks that I did with this, I think I did 2 other looks, and I really like them. This is a really nice palette. Going into this, I was a little apprehensive because this shade Backwoods is not the greatest. However, I was able to make it work. I think I just got a dud shade in mind because no one else has said that about this shade. It's kind of hard to work with, but I was able to make it work by not setting my primer and then using this, like really building it up so that it didn't look patchy. And I used that in a neutral look, which will be on the screen. And I also didn't know what to do with the dark metallic to earth, but again, this is like the 3rd time I'm saying it. Using it as like a deepening up shade in my outer corner really has changed the game for me with how I'm able to use my palette, my palettes in my collection, how my looks turned out. So yeah, this project where I have to use every shade in a palette has really changed things for me and just my techniques, and it's shown me that things I thought I didn't like, I actually do if I just figure out the best way that they're meant to be used. And yeah, I really like this palette even more than I did before, and it was so cute to use. And of course, I mean, like, look at this cover art, it's so pretty, I love it so much. I don't know who did it, but it's really beautiful, and they should probably keep using this artist. Now we're moving into my palettes for July, and I'm gonna spoil it a little bit. These are all neutral palettes. I didn't even realize that until I was pulling them out to film this. Yeah. I'll start with a Sephora palette. This is the Sephora I Love palette in, it says medium cool eyeshadow palette. So I guess it's like, this is long discontinued. I don't even remember, like, I don't even think I ever knew what the full range was. I got this on clearance last year, and I have never used it, so this will be a first impression for me. Here's what it looks like. I'm assuming by the name this is the medium depth palette and a like cool version of a palette instead of warm toned, but this is what it looks like. It has 7 shades, as Sephora palettes usually do, and this one is all like, it doesn't have any cream to powder shades in it. One thing that I'm kind of like wondering why they did this is these 2 mattes look almost the same. Like, these first 2 brown mattes in here, they look almost the exact same. I think like the one in the middle is slightly deeper, but you can hardly tell. I don't even know if you can even tell on camera. I will say this kind of does look a little bit like my what's called Frosted Sequoia palette from Lorac, so maybe I should have pulled that one out to compare them, but I don't have it with me, so I'm not gonna. But yeah, this kind of does remind me of that a little bit, like a small travel palette, and the tones, except for like this shade, it doesn't have something like that. The tones are very similar as well. It has like one cool tone shimmer, one warm tone shimmer and then like a lighter one, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So I'm excited to try this out and see like what I think of the looks, if I think this would be a suitable travel palette for me, because I am traveling a bit in like toward the end of summer. So that is the first palette. The next one is another small palette. It's the One Size Golden Cocoa eyeshadow quad. This was a holiday release, and I don't remember if it was the end of 2022 or 2021. I think it was December 2021. Here's what it looks like. It's just 2 mattes, 2 shimmers. This is like a very easy palette to use. You can use every shade in here in one look, so that's probably what I'm going to do. This, I don't know if you can tell, this lighter matte has a pretty decent dip in it, because when I first started at my, okay, so yeah, this did come out in 2021 then, because when I started at my job in 2022, this was also like the first in-person job I had when I was getting into makeup. I didn't know like what was appropriate to wear at the office, so I literally wore this palette I think every single day for the first 2 months. So I got a lot of use on this. Most days I just did the 2 mattes, and then on like Fridays when I was feeling like a little more casual, I would use the shimmers. So I've used this a lot, but I haven't used this in about 2 years now. So I'm excited to see what I think of this and my probably one look that I do with this. But yeah, I'm glad to have this back out again, because I remember really loving this palette. Next is another really tiny palette. I just have like pretty much all my minis in this month. This is the Morphe 2 Malibu palette. I've also never used this. This is what it looks like. This was an impulse purchase. There you go. I was in a Morphe store back when they still had stores. I think this was like holiday 2022, so it's been over a year that I've had this, like a year and a half now, and I still haven't used it. But yeah, I think I was in the store looking for a makeup brush, and then I was browsing with some money in my purse, and I just bought this because it was like cheap and I was interested in the colors. This was back when I was way more into very warm tones than I am now. But now that it's summer, I feel like I could wear this no problem, because in like July, August is when I'm really into those warm neutrals. I'm like looking at this palette, analyzing it. I feel like I could use every shade in here in one look. So this would probably be another really easy palette for me to use, but I've never used it before, so it'll be a first impression. I think Morphe 2 was like technically a different brand than the Morphe brand, and I do like the Morphe formula, especially the mattes. I think they're really easy to work with. So hopefully I like this formula as well. Last small palette before I get to the final one, which is a decent size. This is the Dose of Colors Baked Browns 2 palette. I've never used this palette. Quick story with this, I bought this when it first released in I think March of 2022, or maybe I bought it in April, but I bought it on its first release, and it was kind of sitting in my collection for about a year. And then like a year after I bought it, I opened it up to use it, and it had gone bad. Like something in the formula, like it had bumps on it, so I immediately threw it away. I didn't use it, and then I repurchased it the next time I made a Dose of Colors order, but I still haven't used it. So technically I've never used this palette, even though I've had it for so long, and this is the second one of these I've had. I never really had the chance to use it. So I'm going to take this brush out. This is what it looks like, the standard Dose of Colors 5-pan, just yeah, monochromatic brown mattes. I do prefer the Big Browns 2 color story, because the other one, Big Browns 1, is like much more warm toned and goes like a lot lighter, so I prefer these colors for sure. And I feel like honestly I probably didn't need that Milani palette that's like all matte browns because I have this one. Sorry, let me move the mirror. So we'll see what I think of this, how versatile it ends up being as like a companion palette. But I'm glad that I'm finally going to be able to use this. As you know, I love the Dose of Colors eyeshadow formula. It's like my favorite eyeshadow formula ever, so I'm excited, and hopefully I'll create some like interesting looks. I'm looking at my Z palette because I kind of want to use some of my single shadows, and I think this would be perfect for that. Final palette is my Artist Couture Supreme Nudes palette, and I love this palette so much. Even though it is a little bit dusty, I swear I do like it. This is what it looks like. It's really, really beautiful. I used this in my, I think it was my Old Me Gifted Blue product last year. I used it no pan left behind and had a really great time. It's a great formula, not the absolute best, but really, really good high-end formula for the mattes, and then the metallics, of course, as long as you use a glitter primer, which I always do. They're so impactful and beautiful, and they don't fade. So this is like not only a beautiful color story, but very good quality, and I love this so much. Out of all the palettes, this has the most color by far because it has a yellow gold, and it has like a neutral green, and it has that very, very warm shade right here. Still a neutral palette, but it does have a few like tiny pops of color. So I'm excited to use this and get more use on it, like be able to like have an excuse to bring it out again, and I'm really excited. This is like my Love Island palette that I mentioned in my palette wardrobe tag, which I'll also link below. I'm also watching Love Island right now. I haven't watched the episode that came out today, so that's probably what I'm gonna do right now because this video is over. Thank you so much for watching. I really do think that this is probably going to be an easy month because I have these two palettes that will take me, I'm thinking, 1 use to get through. This palette, I'm thinking it'll only take me 2 uses to use. No pan left behind. And then this one will just be a little companion palette, but there are only 6 shades in here, so this should also be very easy. The only one that'll take me a while is this one, but I have 4 weeks to use all of these, so I'm very excited. It's going to be a very neutral month, but hopefully that means I'll be able to use like some of my bolder lipsticks because I don't like to do a bold eye and a bold lip, as you can see from this look. So yeah, maybe I'll make some good progress on my lipsticks this month and have a good time with neutral eyeshadows. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day today, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.